Welcome into NASCAR Inside the Race after just the wildest finish at Kansas Speedway, which we have come to be used to that mile and a half producing some pretty epic finishes. But Steve Letarte, my favorite crew chief, if you listen up closely enough, I think you can hear the siren all the way from the Dawsonville pool room still firing up in Kansas. Steve is joining us live from the racetrack. I obviously am on the West Coast, joining you virtually here, Alex Weaver, but we're excited to break down everything. But I heard it was a hot one in the Sunflower State, Steve.
It was a hot one in the temperature. It was a hot one on the racetrack. The stat line lies to you because it says that Denny Hamlin led 160 laps, which he did. But there was nothing about this race that looked to be dominant. Even when Denny was leading, he was basically contested all day long. And then we knew overtime was going to get crazy. The question is, who is it going to be? And really, until about 500 yards before the start-finish line, did I think Chase Elliott even have a chance? And then voila, he came through. Bull in a china shop. I liked it. Pushing and shoving his way to the win.
Well, Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott are locked into the round of 8 officially. Chase Elliott and the championship hunt for that 9 team to get their second championship is officially on. And I just want to give credit to one of my favorite lines that I heard post-race. D-Lo, can we fire up one of the best things that was said post-race from our winner?
Oh, I wasn't going to lift, so I didn't know what was going to happen, but I figured, at the end of the day, it was what it was at that point. We were both wide open corner exit. So wherever I ended up at that point. We were all committed. So it was, really cool just to be, restart 10th and somehow win it on a green, white checker. It's pretty neat.
All right. So pretty neat indeed. But basically the response to Marty on USA was, I wasn't going to lift. He asked him, you gave a little door bang to the 11 of Denny Hamlin. We're going to break down everything in Denny Hamlin's day. We're going to talk about the teammates of 2311 and everything that went on with the 23 and the 45. But obviously we would be remiss to not talk about not lifting and going after a win. Steve, this was the spark of a weekend that I needed to see from the 9 for them to have this kind of a weekend to propel themselves to a championship.
Well, I think that's the point. It's a weekend's worth of work, right? You don't win from 20th or 25th. The 9, listen, they've not been good qualifying. Their weekend starts from behind. This week, they made it a priority as what basically last week Chase said, hey, I put it on myself. I have to do better. So I don't know what they changed, but the performance changed. They qualified 4th. They ran up front. They scored stage points. They did everything needed to do. And I think that's the difference, whether he won today or not. I know that sounds crazy because we want to look at his win. But if he didn't win, if he ran 3rd or 4th, it was still kind of mission accomplished for Chase Elliott to kind of flip what the recipe has been for this 9 car. Jeff Burton said it in the pre-race that they had to go from running good to running, in contention to win. And that's what they did. They put themselves in contention. This is on board with the 9. I mean, look, he's 8th. He's all the way back, well outside the top, but he uses momentum. He said that in his interview too. It's all about momentum. He just makes a lot of the right choices. You only have 3 miles of racing. You can't make very many bad ones, and he makes all the right choices.
What do you think was the difference with the 9 this weekend? Because you even mentioned it. We've talked about it on the show here before about the qualifying effort. They don't unload off of the truck well and haven't been for months. But when we come to a mile and a half, qualified 4th, Chase even mentioned how positive he felt about the weekend overall, even despite the win. So what was different for you this weekend for them?
So I really think you got to go back to Darlington. So all summer long, the tracks are clunky. The schedule is clunky. We run some road courses, some different style tracks, and it's really easy to get lost kind of where you stack up. And I just assumed, much like I assume Hendrick Motorsports thought, they would unload at Darlington and be the Hendrick Motorsports we all expected. And they just were mediocre at their standards, right? Probably above mediocre in most, but mediocre by their own standards. So then you can't turn a ship that big on a dime. So I think that kind of cold water on the face of, oh boy, we better get going. That organization has been proven to, they're never going to lay down. They're always going to continue to battle. And I think that's what you saw, right? You saw a total body of work. Larson was great. Chase was great. Byron will be a conversation because he was awful and it turned into great at the end of the race, or at least better than awful. But I think that's really it for me. I think it's as simple as, being fast. So cars drive good, cars drive bad, but some are fast and some are slow, and those sometimes aren't connected. I've had awful driving race cars that are fast, and when I look at the 9 from Friday or Saturday, I guess, when practice happened, I just thought it looked faster. It just looked easier to create speed.
Well, he entered the weekend 7th in the playoff standings. He was 14 above the cut line when he came into Kansas. And this is how you do it. This is how you make sure that this team can sleep soundly at the place that is the chaos of the Charlotte Roval, because you don't want to go into next Sunday having to be in a points issue. And at one point in the race, Chase was 1, 2, 3, 4 points above the cut line. It was not a day where it was going to be like, man, this is going to be an easy walk in the park at the Charlotte Roval next week. So as far as the points clincher, it's amazing what a race like Kansas and coming out from 10th after that restart can propel you to the next round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, this format rewards wins, and Penske has proven it for the last 3 years that you have to get the Phoenix and then either win. I know they didn't win every year, but they won the championship the last 3 years at Phoenix, and I think that's what you're seeing is, I thought it was going to be Bubba Wallace from below the cut line, right?
Me too.
It would have been the absolute golden ticket, the Willy Wonka golden ticket onto the next round, but they just couldn't get it done. Even controlling the bottom line, they couldn't get it done. And from not out of nowhere, but from deep into the top 10, it ended up being Chase Elliott. The winner to me today was Chase Elliott and the race fan. Last week we talked a lot about teammates and how they race each other for 10th and 11th. And I'm going to get strung up on social media. People are going to hate me when I say this, but I am very vocal about how teammates should respect each other when you're running 10th.
Yeah.
Or 11th.
Yeah.
And the same person has the opinion that when you talk about trophies, the last thing I want to hear is teammates. And that's what we got. We saw people race each other. Like, so right here on the restart, look, you want Briscoe to work with Bell and you want Bubba and Reddick to work together. But then kind of once you get to this point of the corner, Briscoe climbs the banking. He says, I have to win. I have to go. Hamlin gets shot out of a cannon. He thinks he has to go, right? That's what I think is the beauty of this restart is Denny Hamlin is not thinking about his team cars. The 19 tries to get the outside of the 20. There were so many examples of selfish race car drivers. And I said it on the broadcast, and I'll say it again. I've been fortunate to see a lot of coworkers go into the Hall of Fame, and not one time did they say X amount of wins, but this many times they pushed a teammate to the win. That's not a stat line when you go into the Hall of Fame. So I like selfish respect when you aren't having the best day, but when you're having a great day. Right here, Denny Hamlin is thinking about win 60 and only win 60. I'm sure he'll kick himself tomorrow because he eliminated both Toyotas and a Chevrolet went through, but the fans should rejoice at the aggression that the 11 drove into turn 3 with, because I will tell you, the day he lifts and lets the 23 go on purpose is the day that what are we doing as a sport? So yeah. Tried and true. Racing holds true. It was beautiful. The trophies mattered the most, and I celebrated it.
And Steve, we talk to these drivers all the time. We ask them, like, who would you wreck to win $1 million? Would you wreck your teammate to get a win? Of course you would. Who wouldn't?
And you don't have to wreck them. You just don't have to, you don't have to get out of the way.
Right.
I think that was the key. Yeah, it was perfect.
Agreed. Well, we are live here on Inside the Race, so I want to give a shout out to all the viewers that are watching with us here live. We obviously are paying attention to the chat, so if you have questions for Steve and I or anything you'd like to say about the race at Kansas, please comment in the chat. I also want to do a little housekeeping because we have had the driver of the 22, Joey Logano, check in with us here before we went live. He is on his way to the airport at Kansas to fly home to Charlotte. He is hopefully going to check back in with us, and we're going to ask him some questions about Kansas. He obviously didn't have a very positive day and is heading to the Roval in a situation where they need some points to make it to the next round. So we'll get his thoughts, hopefully, if he joins. But let's break down this finish a little more because obviously we see the 9. And I want to give, this is a team sport, Steve. I want to give some credit to this 9 crew who I think were just as shocked as we were that Chase Elliott won this race. But they had the best average pit stop time of all the playoff pit crews today. And also some credit to Alan Gustafson, who made a risk by taking 4 tires on that last stop, which really paid off for the 9 too. But let's break down the final restart that we saw, because this will kind of lead us into the 11 talk as well. So,
well, it starts with Bubba Wallace not getting the launch he's needing to get out of the restart zone. Burton kind of pointed this out. I was expected the 45 and the 19 to be a little bit closer and push these guys out. They were unable to do it. And once the 23 and the 20 go into turn 1 side by side, that's it. That's like pulling a parachute, and then it's kind of bar the door behind you. You see 2, 3 wide. Chase is already to the right side of the 24 back there in row 5, trying to make something happen. But like right here, Bubba Wallace is in trouble because Bubba Wallace has got to clear the 20. If he clears the 20 right here, I don't know if he wins the race, but the path is much easier. The 20 sits on his quarter panel, pulls the 23 back, and then it's really a question of who gets the help at the end of the straightaway. Once again, for the second restart in a row, I thought the 19 was going to shove the 20 by right here in corner entry. He doesn't. He kind of goes to the top, and Denny Hamlin says, thank you very much. He takes a clean air on the bottom. And now it's just kind of beating and banging. The 23 gets tight, runs the 20 up. Right there, I thought it was Briscoe. Briscoe had a chance. The 20 kind of got to the fence. And now at this point, I actually think it's the 11's race to win. I thought Denny Hamlin has the best car. I'm a little unsure. He had some power steering issues. He gets a great run off the corner. And then he just overcooks turn 3. He just tried too hard. He's had win 60 lined up. You see the fire out the pipes. And then as the 11 goes up the racetrack, that's it. It lets the 9 through. And then this is the moment that Chase is talking about. He said, I'm not going to lift. He knows the 11's going to squeeze him. The 9 runs into his door. No harm, no foul. Drag race to the line. And in a sea of Toyotas, a bow tie wins.
There is a question here in the chat for us, Steve, that says, how would you evaluate the racing today? Was it a fluke or a promise of a good 1.5 mile race system? We've seen it at Kansas. I mean, this has produced some epic finishes here, but I think it's the 1.5 miles have been our bread and butter of this sport. It was consistently what we visited the most on the circuit. It's gotten less and less every year. But it still is. Race teams, they have notebooks for these racetracks. They go to 1.5 miles, and it is just something that they're used to. And I think it shows at Kansas every time we show up recently.
Well, and what I think the fans don't like at the short tracks make 1.5 miles great, right? So the little bit less power and a really, really, really draggy race car just allows the secondary car to not be at such a disadvantage. So he's at disadvantage for dirty air. Well, let me give you a little law of physics. The second car is going to be in dirty air. I don't know how to fix that. So the draft really has to overcome. So I think what you see is, and it's not obvious, but when you get in line down the straightaway, the second car gets that toe, which keeps him in play, keeps him, close enough. So I think it's the perfect example of you can't make the same meal with the same recipe. I think we definitely, as a sport, need to address the short tracks. I think that changes always need to be made. You always have to look what needs to be what has to be better. But the 1.5 miles are great. And now they're not going to be great. Look, we're going to have sleepy races. It happens. But I think this car and the drivers, I don't think we give enough credit to the drivers at times as well. I'd stand there in the booth and look out the window, and I'm like, what in the heck am I watching? I mean, these guys just, this is not, everybody wants to be what it was in the 80s and 90s. Look, I was here in the 90s. Like, this is not what happened on the restarts. So these drivers do more just, I guess, chaos is the word. They put their cars in such chaotic places because it's required to run well. But it was a great race. So I think it's a fluke? No, I think Kansas always delivers. It's a great racetrack, old surface, multiple variable banking, multiple grooves, great time.
All right. Well, that brings me to my next point here, because Denny Hamlin, it was looking like it was going to be the 11th day. He was winning stages. He was getting playoff points. Denny Hamlin was our Xfinity fastest lap of the race, so he got that playoff point as well. But there are some comments in here where the question is, Steve, did he basically ruin his chances of winning, and also his car? He obviously owns 2311 with Michael Jordan. Did he ruin Bubba Wallace's chance of winning too?
Well, yeah, because you're on board with driver Denny Hamlin. You're not on board with team owner Denny Hamlin right here. When he puts his fire suit on, he's a race car driver. And he drove down in there, and he ran the 23 up, and they got tight, and the 9 gets by. You're going to see the 9 show up right here into sight. Look, I'm okay with it. It was a pit stop that took him out of the lead. It happens. Human error. Issue on the pit stop with the jack. Bubba Wallace is frustrated, as he should. Like, this is okay. Such as sports. It's okay that everybody hates one another. Like Bubba Wallace, he came over. I'm sure Denny right here is like, hey, man, I'm sorry. The day that an owner drives a car as an owner, man, that's not good. That's not what people buy tickets for. That's not what people watch for. I want Denny Hamlin to drive for race win 60. And that's what he did right there. And I'll be honest, I've watched turns 3 and 4 multiple times. And I believe that if Denny doesn't drive in there very, very deep, the 23 goes around him on the outside. So I'm not sure how Denny does it different and still have a chance to win the race. Like, I'm okay with it all. I know that's unpopular. We're supposed to have some sort of scientific breakdown. But I applaud. Now, it's okay that Bubba Wallace is pissed. That's okay too. He should be. He get drove in the door by the guy that owns the car. That's a frustrating go.
Let's take a listen to Bubba Wallace's post-race interview he did with USA.
At the win with the way we started, I told Post, you could have fooled me because we were not good. We missed it on the fire off speed. So I just really appreciate the team. 2 years ago, I'd probably say something dumb. I mean, he's a dumbass for that move, for sure. I don't care if he's my boss or not. But we're going for the win. I hate that we gave it to Chevrolet there. Toyotas were super fast, and proud to be driving one. I thought it was meant to be, and then it wasn't. And all in all, the positive, though, we were minus 26 coming in. Now we're minus 27 coming in. We're minus 26 leaving. We gained a point.
They gained a point. Maybe a frustration there.
Yeah, a little bit of sarcasm. Obviously, I love that he says 2 years ago, I would have said something stupid. And then he proceeds to say it anyways, because who cares? He's frustrated. He's a competitor. But Steve, before we break down a little bit more of Bubba Wallace, we do have Joey Logano that is waiting patiently for us to bring him in the studio. So JL, if you can hear us.
I hear you.
Oh, look at that.
Look, I know it wasn't as positive as a day as you would have liked, but let's break down Kansas. How do you feel about the 22 efforts today?
Frustrated at the weekend itself. Just a challenge. It's a challenging weekend. I guess you can say frustrating because we did a pretty good job for the cards we were dealt. Right, we had the issue in practice with the flat tire. We dragged the diffuser off, qualified bad. So then you fix it, which is great, but you got to start in the back. Then you have a horrible pit stall that we had to fight all day long on pit road. With all that considered, we still were able to score stage points in both stages and run towards the top 10 most of the day. So I was proud of that. But then frustrated with the wreck and, once we spun out, I must have got something underneath the car. It wouldn't turn in a 30-acre field after that. So it was challenging to finish up there where we wanted to. But overall, like I said, Paul did some really good calls and just didn't work out the way it needed to.
Joey, restarts are crazy, but what was the magic today? Like standing up there in the booth, I'll be honest, when the green flag fly, I was worried. I thought this was going to be like single file around the top, hot, slippery. I thought the wall was going to dominate the day. But I saw cars actually make time on the bottom. Cars like people could move around as much or more than ever. Is that temperature, racetrack, tire, some sort of magic recipe? I mean, it was pretty captivating out the window.
Yeah, and some of that we saw in the Xfinity race yesterday. And even Xfinity qualifying. They qualified on the bottom, which blew my mind because I coming before. So I guess I think it's the track. Maybe the track's just wearing the right way and to where it's still, dominant lane to be up top. But the majority of my laps were on the bottom today just because no one else was there. And it kind of gave you an opportunity to car. So I thought it was great.
JL, when we come to these mile and a halves and we're seeing less and less on the schedule than we used to, as we're obviously getting some diversity in these racetracks that we're going to, but the confidence level for Team Penske, when we haven't seen a mile and a half since May, where is it at for you guys now? Like what is the mile and a half confidence level from that organization?
I'd say we ran comparable to what we did in the spring there. I think as far as the 22 in general, mile and a halves haven't been our thing. So to run in the top 10 there, I felt like was kind of where we've been. Our fire off speed is horrible. Our long run speed's pretty good. If we can just take the first 5 laps out of every run, we'd be up there winning. It's hard to make up those spots afterwards. So, I'd say, we're exactly where we want to be, but we just got to get some short run speed in our cars.
You mentioned short runs. Every restart to me looked like a drunken bar fight from the front row to the 10th row. Like it was crazy. We're going to break it down time after time of how Chase Elliott got the win, but from behind the wheel, is it all happening in slow motion, or do you have to go back and watch the replays to figure out who had the run? Like it looks so situational. Are you aware? Can you be aware from behind the wheel of everything happening around you, or do you have to go back and relive some of these to understand what happened and where the runs come from?
I gotta be honest. I heard nothing there.
That's good. It was some of my best work. I was talking about the crazy restarts.
Up.
I was talking about the crazy restarts and what it's like. Like, do you have an idea of what's happening behind the wheel and the chaos around you? That's it.
Every 10th word, I'm trying to make a sentence here.
Well, don't you worry. We appreciate you joining us. We're just gonna say thank you.
JL, you get back on that plane and get back home to Charlotte.
We're back. I hear you now.
Okay, you hear me now.
I was just asking about the restarts. They looked crazy as ever from behind the wheel. I mean, how do you even approach them?
Yeah, the restart itself. I haven't really got to dive in deep enough. You know, I think the four kind of stuck his nose in there and the hole wasn't there and it closed up and we wrecked. I'm not really exactly sure what happened on that restart yet, but everyone kind of went for it and there wasn't enough space. So, you know, the middle is a pretty attractive place to be on restarts in Kansas, and it just didn't work out.
All right, JL, before we let you go and get on the plane, you're plus 13 to the good right now heading into the Charlotte Roval. What do you do next Sunday to make sure the 22 is in the round of 8?
Well, I think it's going to start with qualifying well, which we've been able to do that the last couple of times we've been there is qualify towards the front. So we need to try to do that. Stage points are going to be key. And you just got to run the best race you can. You know, I really wanted to leave here, you know, 30 points over to cut, and we're not. So on one hand, you know, the back half of that race couldn't have gone much worse after the wreck, but we're also in a lot different spot if Bubba won that race. So thanks, Denny.
Yeah, you make sure and send him a Starbucks gift card or something this week for you guys resting a little easier heading to the Roval. We'll get on the flight. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate you, and we'll see you in Charlotte.
I think he
broke up again, but I think you're saying bye. So good to see you. Thank you.
Hi, JL. See you soon.
I think he could hear my question. He just didn't want to answer it.
Yeah, he didn't know how to tackle it either.
No, look, his analysis of the restart's exactly it, right? I'm surprised they don't wreck more. You know, I think the 4 did. He tried to kind of push it in there 3 wide, and the hole closed up, and they all kind of stacked up, and that's what it was. But he was close enough to the front to say thank you, Denny Hamlin. So that was a good soundbite.
Yeah,
I appreciate
that
it,
was
Joey.
A great soundbite. You always it doesn't matter how you get help. Who cares who helps you? But as long as you get help there at the end.
Fact.
We were listening to Bubba Wallace and the frustration and the sarcasm there from Bubba. But Steve, we've touched on this already about it's racing. There are no teammates on the final lap, but you're okay with the frustration of Bubba Wallace, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I thought he could have really lit into Denny Hamlin and talk about what happened to the team and to this and to that. I thought it was an appropriate level of frustration. I thought that, you know, look, the move didn't work. I mean, the 11 nor the 23 won the race. The 9 won the race. So I would say that the frustration's fine. Like, it's crazy to say, but sometimes I'm just okay with how it all worked out. Like, I feel like everybody tried their hardest, and the hardest wasn't right for the 23 or the 11. The hardest was right for the 9. And that's okay. Because, like, you know, we could talk about what the 11 did wrong, but we can also talk about what the 9 did right. He didn't overdrive the corner. He rolled the bottom. He had momentum. He could have chased it in the top and got behind the 23. There's 100 ways that race runs differently. I think that if you want to talk the talk, you have to walk the walk. And Denny Hamlin, to me, drove down in there, and people have asked him 100 times, what are you going to do if you have to push a Gibbs car or your own car at the Speedway? And what are you going to have to do here? And what are you going to have to do there? And Denny Hamlin's choice in 3 at 4 at Kansas, for me, allowed everybody who buys a Denny Hamlin t-shirt to wear it proudly in the stands, because he didn't drive down in there as team owner and let the 23 go. Because I will tell you that the 11 dang well knew he was fine on points going down the backstretch. But 60 wins was more important than Denny Hamlin, than playoffs and ownership and points and advancement. And bravo, that's what we're looking for. And it's okay that now listen, if I'm Bubba Wallace, I'm mad. And if I'm Denny Hamlin, I'm probably, you know, he's going to have, much like I talked last week about how Ty Gibbs and all these guys are going to have a meeting. Now I think it's important for Denny Hamlin this week to stand in front of the organization and and answer the questions from the guys that work for him. And I think that's okay. Like, I don't think he was egregiously in the wrong, but he's going to have to be okay that 2311 shop is probably a little disappointed with their owner. Like, you knew this was going to happen at some point.
And nobody gets in this business to not go after and win races. I mean, what are we all doing if we're not racing as hard as we can and trying to make it to the checkered flag first? But today was the third time Toyota had 4 cars finish in the top 5 in a race in 2025. That's tied for the most ever in a season with 2017. So obviously Toyota is still continuing to show how dominant they are and the speed that they're bringing to these playoffs. So I think they can hang their hat on that. But I also want to, on the flip side of things, obviously Denny and Bubba both finished the race, but one driver that did not finish this race, he was released and he is okay on his own power from the infield care center, but was Zane Smith. But Steve, let's break down what you saw in this wreck of John Hunter Nemechek and Zane Smith.
Well, John Hunter kind of cannonballs in there. I think it gets a little tight, gets into the left rear quarter, the 38 runs him into the wall, and then the tires just kind of climb the wall and slides on the left side. I mean, watch how long this car slides. That's a 3,500-pound race car just sliding. You remember his helmet against the left side headrest can't be but like 8 or 10 inches away from the asphalt as it slides by. But as he said in the interview, this wasn't really the bad part. It's these tumbles. While they look slow, these are very hard hits because they land – you know, the tires don't have any air in it. So right there is on the frame rail. Then right again, it's going to come around and land bang on the left side frame rail again. Those are some pretty jolting hits. Very, very scary. It was great to see him get out of the car and talk about it. Look, man, it's, you know, there's been a lot made about this car and there's been a lot of improvements made. I think year one, there were some deficiencies, things that had to be addressed. They were addressed. And this is why I think, look at how the cockpit itself in the roof doesn't really move at all, right? There's no collapse of the roof. Even the left side after it comes to a stop is in great shape after sliding along the cheese grater. Not to mention this hit from John Hunter. That's really
crazy
time.
Right there.
Yeah, look at that right there. Go ahead. Everybody jump on. It's a heck of a ride being a race car driver.
Obviously, Zane mentioned that he just got ran up and he was frustrated on the radio, but he said the hardest part of this whole entire wreck, obviously, was, as you mentioned it, Steve, when you're coming down the asphalt and you're falling and spinning and taking these hard hits down on the racetrack. So glad to see Zane's okay.
Sometimes it's sitting like, so it's crazy. I've talked to some drivers landing upside down. So let me talk. So you have shoulder belts, you have lap belts, you have sub belts, a couple sets of sub belts, some that are holding you back and some that are holding you down. So when you land upside down, now I've never done this, so this is secondhand information from all the drivers that have told me this, but when you land upside down, you actually, you know, your hips are pretty well supported and so aren't your shoulders. So your spine does a pretty good job of not really compressing. You're kind of held in 2 spots. But when you flip over and it lands on the frame rail, it's kind of like your feet going out from underneath you on the ice and landing on your butt. And it kind of jars you all the way up your back, right? We've seen Denny Hamlin hurt his back at California when the car went up in the air and landed like this. So that's actually like the compression side, like the driver is held in such a good spot now. It's not as much the outward motion as the inward. It's the compression of, you know, your head compressing into your spine, compressing into your butt when you land back down on the frame rail. Those are the ones that sound like they really jar the drivers.
Yeah, glad to see that Zane is okay. Conversations between John Hunter and Zane this week. Does John Hunter need to reach out? What do you think?
Oh, if I'm John Hunter, I reach out for sure. Okay. If you're, you know, I think, look, people make mistakes. He got in there a little deep. I don't know exactly what happened. I'm sure he either got tight or just misjudged the corner. But you race against each other all the time. These two do race against each other a lot. They both had decent cars. Zane had one of the better cars I've seen out of front row in general. Actually, has made a really big shift over the last 5 or 6 weeks.
They have.
So, you know, good for him. But yeah, I think you reach out. You got to do the right thing.
Yep. All right. Well, let's talk in now to Inside the Race. We love a segment here for the playoffs called our pressure cooker. And this basically takes a look at the fellas that are around that elimination line, which we know is going to be the topic of discussion this whole entire week because it is an elimination race. And it's also the chaos of one of the most chaotic races in the playoffs, the Charlotte Roval. So can we bring up those standings of what the playoffs looks right now? And we're going to walk through this playoff pressure cooker and what these drivers need to be doing for the Roval, which good luck. I'm glad I'm not in their position. But we have Austin Cindric, who he's minus 48, Steve, in that 12th position. Must win?
Absolutely. Checkered flag for Austin Cindric or the playoff run ends.
Okay. And then that brings us to Tyler Reddick. I kind of want to break down these next two drivers a little bit because Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, obviously we saw Tyler Reddick had a rebound. He had a strong car, then had the issues on pit road, but he's minus 29 below the elimination line right now. But for Tyler Reddick, I don't think Tyler Reddick needs to be beating himself up so much on the push that he didn't, and I'm using quotation marks, didn't give Bubba Wallace and Bubba Wallace's frustration. Steve, in my personal opinion, Tyler Reddick is also going for the win at this racetrack. I don't understand the frustration as much from Bubba.
Well, I understand the frustration, but just because somebody's frustrated doesn't mean they're right. I think that Bubba wants to be pushed, but it's hard to see the perspective of your teammate. But I agree. I understand why Bubba's frustrated, but Reddick needs to try to win the race. So I don't have a problem with anything Reddick did. I think that him and Briscoe were trying as best they could to push their teammate.
Oh, did we lose Steve? Hopefully Steve's connection keeps coming back here. But I'm going to keep talking through this because Tyler Reddick, obviously right now, he's minus 29 below the elimination line. So when you look at Tyler Reddick, must win for me with the Roval. I think that's a difficult spot for him to be in. Alexa and Tyler are really good friends of mine. Obviously, Rook, their baby, is going through some heart complications right now and is in the hospital. So I'm wishing them well. Do we got Steve back?
I am back.
There we
I'm
go.
glad you brought that up because I do think it's a good moment. You know, we talk a lot about on here, and my job as an analyst is to analyze drivers as a driver. And this is awful to say, but I think so we don't pick and choose what's going on in the rest of their life because we have to judge them all the same because that's what sports does. But, you know, I had no idea that was going on. It was obviously shared by Tyler's wife. We wish him, his wife, and their family all the best in such a trying time. But for Tyler Reddick, I think he tried all he could back to bring it to racing at hand. Look, he's doing what he can for the 45. When you look ahead to the Roval, it really comes down to Joey Logano because he is, you know, he's 29 points behind Logano, but 8 more behind Briscoe. So he's 37 behind the next guy. So if Joey Logano keeps all 4 tires on the asphalt, I think Reddick is going to have to be thinking must win, just like his teammate Bubba Wallace. I think 23-11 needs to win the race. I think Ross Chastain's the only one below that should have a lot of confidence they could find enough points. Mind you, if Logano has an issue, then it's a great battle between Chastain, maybe Wallace, and Reddick.
I will say the 23 of Bubba Wallace impressed me today, and he always does. They always find speed when we come to Kansas. It's something about that racetrack that they have figured out, but it almost was the day that we were talking about the Cinderella story of Bubba Wallace today.
Yeah, and it didn't start that way. Charles Denick worked on that race car, got it driving way, way, way better. You know, there were days where if you were slow, you're going to be slow all day long. I love the fact that these cars can be adjusted and get a little bit faster. I don't know exactly what magical knobs they turned, and I'm pretty confident Charles isn't going to tell me when I ask him next week. But it was a really big comeback for the 23 car. It's just, look, let's talk about this format. This may be unpopular, but this is the truth. You have to run well all season long. Chase Briscoe is 21 points above. He hasn't run outside the top 10 yet. Like you have to, with the resets and what happens, you have got to have playoff points. You have to win stages and win races and finish high in the regular season standings. And when you look at Bubba Wallace, it wasn't great at New Hampshire, and the regular season was okay, not great enough. So is he just, you know, is he kicked out yet? No, he could still advance, but I think it's going to take a pretty impressive run.
If you are Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick, though, Steve, where do you look back at these playoffs and be like, this should have been different, and we might be in a different circumstance heading to the Roval?
I think if you want to get to the round of 8, what you saw today needs to be a standard race. You need to be in the top 10 a lot. You need to run better a lot. I think that when I see 23-11, they have glimmers of greatness. There are days they're as good as the big 3, but not consistently as good as the big 3. And that's the hardest part. We talk a lot about Legacy Motor Club and how they try to improve. And when I talk to that organization, they're like, look, we pick a track and we focus on it and we show our best. We can't do that every single week. For 23-11, for me, that's the difference. Is this sounds crazy. Their high water mark is almost where it needs to be. It's not far off. It's the low water mark. It's the bad days have to get better. You know, like, I just think they have winning speed like they had today at times. It's just when they don't have winning speed, it's just really far off. And it's more the variety of racetracks. Like, it's not on them. Like, it's really hard. That's the beauty of the schedule, the variety of racetracks we go to. What I will tell you, though, is there was a time where I thought Bubba Wallace had no chance going to a road course. I don't feel that way anymore. I feel like this organization has improved a little bit everywhere, but that's the next step for them. Whether they don't make the round of 8, that's going to be an acceptable move in my eyes. They got 2 cars in the playoffs. That's a pretty good run for a 3-car organization.
Yeah, basically the overarching idea, I would like to see more from 2311, and maybe this is something 2026 will bring for this organization, because they want to be one of the big 3. They want to be, I mean, they have the garage, they have the airspeed, which is just phenomenal of a team shop. They have the resources. They have.
Look, they also have. Let's we're not going to get the details, but they expanded to 3 cars.
Yep. That's
a huge. Remember, RFK got no cars in the playoffs. They went from 2 to 3 cars, and they went 0 for 3. So they got 2 cars in the playoffs after an expansion, and they have this very distracting lawsuit, which the details doesn't matter, but it's still a hanging distraction. Forget about ownership and the lawsuit, but if you're a mechanic, if you're an engineer, if you're a pit crew guy, your company being in the news for something like that is very, very hard. So the fact that they have been able to keep racing on the racetrack, not to mention, as you pointed out, this unfortunate thing that Tyler Reddick's going, like they're being able to keep kind of all 4 wheels pointed in the right direction more than they're not.
Yeah, for sure. Consistency is what I need more from them. So 2026, that would be my goal for 2311. But let's take a look at the last driver below the elimination line. It's the one of Ross Chastain, who, Steve, has just been quiet. Where is the one?
Quiet is a great word. Even today, just quiet.
Quiet, yeah.
Quiet in a good way some weeks, quiet in a bad way some weeks. That's kind of the signature of this one car. Think about the races. He won this race last year, and I didn't have him really picked for that, right? Then he wins the Phoenix race. I didn't have him win in the 600, and he drove up past the 24 in the last few, runs of that race. So I don't know what it is for Ross Chastain. I think they are just performing kind of good enough to be in the contention. They're still 13 points. It's just a team that I think they need Logano to help them. I don't see them going to score 13 more points than the 22 car. They're just a little too quiet.
I have been a little surprised, just given obviously the 99 of Daniel Suarez. I know SVG made the playoffs, but you look at a driver like Ross Chastain, who is not in his first year with this organization. He is a veteran and leading the charge at Trackhouse. He has been pointed as, this is our guy. This is who we're going to let take this organization to new heights. And I think I have been surprised that there has not been more. There is an effort, because we know men and women at the shop are working.
Oh, they're trying.
But
look, it's hard.
The results have not been better for the one.
I mean, here's what people don't understand. We talk about the big 3. Well, they're working too. It's like, as long as those 3 keep pushing each other, you're trying to catch them. It's a challenge. Look, for the one of Ross Chastain, I really think, I'll be honest, I think the lack of high-speed teammates hurts. I think SVG, when you go to the road course, he is the bar. And he had a great run going here today.
Yep.
So I think he's improving. This isn't a knock on SVG, right? But the 99 is just not very fast. And I think when you get lost and you can't see the forest through the trees, you need something to lean on. And I'm just not sure that Ross Chastain has that in practice. I think he's the one guy fighting against a lot of multi-car organizations.
Let's look back at these playoff standings, because Steve, is the one and a must win for you?
He is not. The one is the exact opposite. If I am the one team, I am making Joey Logano outrun us, making Joey Logano protect those 13 points. Joey said it when we talked to him. It starts in qualifying. If I'm the one and I out-qualify Joey Logano, I could take 13 points to say 7 or 8 or 9 right after stage 1. I am making sure that Joey Logano feels the pressure of advancement. Make him advance, right? Don't give it to him. Because if you're Ross Chastain and you think it's a must-win and you drive off track or you try too hard, then you let Joey Logano coast, right? Like, the last thing we want is prevent defense. Let's not let up. Don't try so hard that you force yourself into a mistake. I know Ross Chastain in the one has been quiet, but you are what you are. We are 30 races into the season. And I actually think this is Ross's strength. Ross is very confident in his identity. He's very confident in the speed of his race cars, even when they're not there. Like, he knows what he has. He doesn't try to make more than what it is. Yet he gets every ounce of it, man. He will squeeze that watermelon until there's not a seed left in it, right? And that's what he just has to do with the one car. Don't go off track. Don't get caught up in somebody else's mess. Blue collar, grind your way. And if it's not enough, it's not enough. Then he needs faster race cars, a little more consistent, better all the way around, right? But don't gift an advancement to Joey Logano.
Obviously, the Roval is a completely different beast, but if I'm Ross Chastain, I am working hand in hand with SVG this upcoming week to make sure that I have everything I need to know about the Roval. Help me on these corners, these right and left turns. I think it's going to be a leaning on the teammate week for me personally, if I am the one of Ross Chastain.
Without a doubt. I mean, that's what I wait to see, because I think the ovals, he needs some help. So I would go with whatever SVG goes with for a setup, and I would be like, hey, Shane, we know you're going to be fast. I would be doing the prep with him, the sim with him, everything with him to just try to absorb as much information as possible.
Yeah. The playoff standings, let's look right above the elimination line too, because Joey Logano, we heard from him. It's going to be all about Saturday and qualifying and making sure that they have a strong day. But Chase Briscoe of it all, 21 above the elimination line. What are you making in the 19 here lately in this round of the playoffs?
They're doing amazing. It just doesn't look like it, right? They run inside the top 10 all the time. They score stage points to do everything they need, but they're only plus 21. I think my advice for Ross Chastain is the same for Chase Briscoe. Just try to stay on track. 21 points should be enough, because it's 21 over Ross. Remember, it's even more than that behind Ross. So it's the same thing. Don't eliminate yourself. Make these guys eliminate you. That's what I would do if I'm Chase Briscoe.
The Roval is obviously such a hard racetrack in itself and a unique beast, but a hard place to 21 points is a lot at the Roval.
Well, it is. It really comes down to stages. Chase Briscoe after stage 2, I think what you have. If you still have a 20-point gap when the stages end, that's 20 positions on the racetrack. Now, the only counter is there'll probably be 35 cars on the lead lap.
Yeah.
So I think at some point, and I hate data analytics when it comes to this, but there may be a time where James Small needs to be Chase. I need you to let somebody go. I need you to not drive in front of this guy's bumper. Hey, there's a 5-second gap through there. Like at some point, you show up, you coach, you crew chief, you manage, but at some point, the goal is to advance. Don't get lost in the race. Don't get in somebody else's fight for 9th when you don't need to be there. And I think that's what the 19 will have to do.
A huge star for me with this 19 team. He's the only driver to finish top 10 in all 5 of these playoff races this season.
Crazy.
So it is a crazy stat. They're having such a good playoff run. I definitely am keeping my eye on the 19 and what they do with those 21 points. But Steve, I will say this.
Hey, I will say this. If we scroll all the way up, right, we haven't lost who I think are championship 4 contenders. So let me just say, so Chase Elliott, maybe people didn't have him in his championship 4. Blaney, Larson, Hamlin, Bell, Byron, Briscoe. I mean, we are every year, how we kind of like lose 1 or 2. Now, maybe somebody has Reddick or Bubba. Like, I can make an argument for the ones that are below, but we have, I mean, if this was the NCAA tournament, we haven't lost a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4.
The cream has risen to the top.
Double-digit seeds.
Yeah. Yeah, the cream has definitely risen to the top. And Steve and I keep talking about these big 3 teams, but if you look at who this top 8 is, look at the teams. It is the big 3 versus the big 3. They're battling themselves up there. But Steve, I ask you this every elimination week. Where's the safe point for you? What number on these standings do you feel like, all right, you're advancing and you don't have anything to worry about?
William Byron on up. 40 points is enough. Unless that car doesn't crank when it's time to roll off the grid, I think William Byron is going forward. I think Chase Briscoe and Joey Logano should be okay, but, I've seen a lot of shoulds. Shoulds can go away very, very quickly. But you do bring up a good point. Like, it wouldn't shock me if we end up with 3 HMS, 3 Joe Gibbs, and 2 Team Penske's. Why wouldn't we?
I mean, it is the organizations that lead the charge there and put the best product in the championship.
I love it, though, because everybody says the cars are all the same. You buy all the same parts. Well, maybe don't tell those 3 cars because those 3 teams.
Exactly. Don't give them the same parts. We have a fan that's watching us here that asked, she's a Kyle Larson fan. She said, is my driver ever going to win again?
Well, listen, I will tell you, I have been really, I was worried. I don't know what it was with the 5-car. Cliff Daniels had some interesting comments this week about just everything this 5's has overcome this year. He said, hey, I'm not going to list them, but we've had medical issues and family issues and internally in a team. We talk a lot about in other sports, or at least I do. I'm a big baseball fan. And to win in the postseason is a lot about staying healthy. And we do a great job of kind of tracking, right? Well, in racing, we know the driver and the crew chief. We don't really know the pit crew. We don't really know the road crew. We don't really know all these things. And it sounds like there has been a tumultuous year for the 5-car off the racetrack. And he's basically alluded to the fact that he was super proud of what the 5-car has overcome this year. He didn't get into the details of that. So I wonder if there's more to the story that we don't know. When the memoirs of Cliff Daniels come out a decade from now, what he's going to write about the 2025 season, because the 5 from May kind of disappeared. But to answer your question, when is he going to win again? I believe soon, because he led laps. He's leading laps again. He's racing up front. He's starting to have a little bit of those fireworks that we expect out of the 5-car.
Yeah, and a positive day for the 5 too. He obviously started the day, but he finished the day in 6th, but he finished 2nd in stage 1, 3rd in stage 2. So the glimpses of hope are there for you 5 fans. It's only a matter of time and when it comes. All right, let's close the show here, Steve, so I can get you out of that darkness that has taken over Kansas as we started the show. I always love watching Steve Letarte going from light to dark as the show goes on. But our weekend winners at Kansas, who you got, Stevie?
For me, I'm going to give it to the obvious one. I think the weekend winners is the 9 of Chase Elliott. And I know that sounds like low-hanging fruit, but the simple fact is, even I said it, without the win, he was still a winner for me. They qualified 4th. They ran up front. They have been the 3rd Hendrick car a lot this year to the 5 and the 24. And even if he doesn't win, I think he was the 1st Hendrick car most of the day. Him and the 5 maybe traded that off here or there. So I have a big weekend winner for Chase Elliott. And the other big winner for me, and this is going to sound crazy, but the people who bought seats and sat in the grandstands in the mid-80s on a beautiful day in Kansas saw the best of the best absolutely trading haymakers for the final 3 miles. And it's what sports are all about. It was the comeback that didn't happen in the Ryder Cup, the 2-minute drill that could happen in a football game. Well, this is NASCAR's version of that. This right here, the last corner, we have 2 guys going into the corner that you think are going to win, and it ends up being the car you're on board with, the 9 of Chase Elliott that wins. So Chase Elliott gets it, but the fans that sat here, they're winners in my book as well.
A question here on the chat, Steve, does the win give Chase Elliott momentum for the championship 4?
I think momentum can be a finicky thing. Yeah, look, I think it helps. Yeah. Winning helps everything. I think it's not the win. It's the car he sits in. Like, he needs to have the speed he had on Saturday. If they continue to do that, and I thought he had it pretty good at New Hampshire as well. So this is 2 very different racetracks where I thought he could be arguing a top 8 car.
Well, lucky for you, Chase Elliott fans, he is locked into the round of 8. So you at least get this championship battle for the next 3 weeks.
Who you got? Who's your winner?
My weekend winner, and it's not just because we have a lot of Kiwis watching the show or our fans from Australia, but SVG gets his first ever Cup Series top 10 on an oval. SVG in the 88 is my weekend winner for this weekend.
I love it. Well deserved. And remember, let's not forget, he started on pit road with a stop and go. It was up and down weekend for the 88, so a good recovery.
Yeah, dare I say it, SVG is going to be dangerous for me next year. I think he learns a lot this season. I think he learns a lot in the offseason. When that driver figures out the ovals, like, beware the rest of the field. Because if he wins every road course race next year and then also is dominating some of the ovals, sayonara. Good luck. I'll see you in the championship 488. All right, Steve, final thoughts, Kansas. What'd you make of it?
It was everything that Kansas always provides in the playoffs. Now, it didn't have some of the crazy DNFs that we normally see, which I didn't need. The drama was on the racetrack. I thought, we're getting to that time of the year where I think everybody is finding a little bit extra, but it came down to human performance, whether it was trouble on pit road for Denny Hamlin or an unbelievable drive for Chase Elliott or just a battle at the front. It kind of had a little bit of everything. It's all playoff drivers at the front of the field. It's just getting to that point in the season. It's just so much fun. The Roval will be that way, and then we're going to squeeze it down to 8 drivers.
My thoughts on Kansas, the last lap, epic. I was yelling at the TV. Didn't even know who I wanted to win. Didn't even care who won. It was just such great racing there at the end. So all I have to say is you better bring your A game next week, because the Charlotte Roval will reach out and bite you pretty quickly and end your playoff chances. So Steve will have some midweek content to get you put a bow on Kansas. It's the last time we'll see that 1.5 miles for 2025. And then before we head to the Roval. So Steve, you head home, enjoy Charlotte for the week. We'll see you on Sunday at the Charlotte Roval.
I can't wait. Like you said, tune in every week. I think there's going to be a lot to break down from here. We might even look ahead to the Roval. Remember that 180-degree corner, we've only seen one race on. I call it Dive Bomb Central. I think we're going to explain exactly why that corner might be the key to the Roval.
Yeah, keep it locked and loaded all week long here on NASCAR's Inside the Race, because Steve will break it all down and get you ready for Sunday. And then we'll see you right back here virtually, and we'll be at the Roval. So we'll see you on Inside the Race. We'll see you next Sunday. Thanks so much for tuning in.